Earlier this month, I turned 29 years old, which means that it's officially the very last year of my 20s. Also, in case you didn't know, Dennis is also 29 years old. He actually turns 30 in just a few months. So that also means that as a couple, it's the last year and technically the last summer of our 20s. Honestly, when I say it like that, it really does sound crazy to me because we've literally been referring to ourselves as a couple in our 20s for years now, definitely the entire time that we've been creating content. And even though there's no more of a difference between age 29 and 30 as there is between age 28 and 29, for some reason it feels like such a substantial difference. It feels like more of this big seismic shift in our lives that's coming up right now. The other thing that's crazy for me too is that Dennis and I met just before my 21st birthday, like the first weeks coming up to that birthday for me. So that means that he's literally known me since I was 20 and now all the way up to 29. So every single year, literally throughout my 20s. Now it's also funny for me looking back, especially to that time, because I actually had a bit of a quarter life crisis when I turned 20 years old. I don't know if you can even call it a quarter life crisis. Technically, hopefully that's a little bit early to be at your quarter life. But yeah, it felt like a really big, scary deal to go from 19 to 20. So ever since then, and I realized turning 20 wasn't so bad and I've liked my 20s, I've actually been pretty cool with all of my birthdays. None of them have really bothered me. I'm not concerned about getting another year older, but it still feels really substantial to now be in this final year of my 20s, even if I'm cool with it. I also feel like in general, turning 30 years old or getting close to turning 30 years old is when a lot of people feel a lot of pressure, mostly related to the timeline of things going on in their life, right? You kind of get into this mindset of the things that you have accomplished before age 30 and the things that you haven't accomplished before age 30. And it's kind of black and white in that way when you have this marker of time that feels so substantial. Now, that pressure comes from a lot of different angles. There's so many different things going on in life, but a lot of it has to do with money and like that financial pressure as well. And that's an area that Dennis and I think about a lot ourselves. You guys know that we're constantly thinking about money and talking about money. So for us, this pressure more so revolves around the topic of what money goals have we hit before 30 and which ones haven't we hit yet and are still lingering on our list. Now, I will say that we as a couple, but definitely more so me specifically as well, I feel like we're pretty good at being able to be happy about the goals that we have hit and be forward thinking about what we still want to hit, as opposed to being too upset about the things that we haven't hit yet. I know for me specifically, I'm a big list maker, a big planner, and I'll constantly have this revolving list of goals that I want to hit. And it's okay to me if the timeline gets pushed back a little bit, as long as everything's getting done at some point and the timing makes sense as I go and adapt. I'm all right with that too. But anyway, for the sake of this video, we did think that it would be fun to consolidate all of these different money goals that we've already hit and the ones that we haven't hit yet and we want to try and hit, or maybe they just naturally align with the fact that we're turning 30 in the next few months or year. So we thought it'd be fun to share that list with you all in this video, and I think we're just gonna dive into it right now.
Okay, so like Steph just mentioned, there's a lot of money goals that we've hit in the past that are definitely worth celebrating. So let's start off with those ones. So now the first big money goal that I personally hit was paying off my student loan debt. And this one was a really interesting one because, I don't know, I just felt like a lot of pressure pretty much each and every day that I had this debt. And it was one of those things that to me felt like it was really stopping me from being able to grow my net worth. That was something that I really, really wanted to do. And just having debt, let alone $50,000 in student loan debt, was just something that I felt was really holding me back. Now, it's kind of funny when we're looking at the timeline of everything because it actually went by pretty fast in hindsight. When I was 22 years old, I had graduated from university, and just 3 years later, at age 25, I'd completely paid off my entire student loan debt. Now, basically what I would do is I would put $1,300 a month towards my debt, and then whenever I got a bonus or anything extra from work, I would throw all of that into the debt as well. Now, if you guys remember, at the time, I was working a corporate job as well. So pretty much any extra money that I would get, I would throw into the debt as well. Now, clearing that debt also kind of changed my life because it really wasn't long after that me and Steph decided to quit our jobs and work for ourselves. And I definitely didn't feel like that was something that I could do with that debt or still having that debt. Now, the reason for that was because we knew that we wouldn't be paying ourselves out very much money, at least at first. See, when we first quit our jobs, we weren't paying ourselves out a lot of money. So we were basically paying ourselves out enough money to cover our groceries, our rent, and a few other basic expenses. So if I was in a position where I also had the debt, I just wouldn't have had enough money to cover those expenses, necessary expenses, and also cover the debt as well. So paying off my student loan loan debt really was a big accomplishment, and it was something that made my life a lot less stressful. And it also really provided me the freedom to go out and not only quit my job, but also try out being an entrepreneur instead. The other big money goal that both Steph and I hit earlier on in our 20s was saving a full emergency fund. Now, this is something that was really important to the both of us, especially given the fact that we had transitioned into becoming self-employed and no longer had some of those employer benefits or really any sort of cushion that any other industry or anything else would have provided you. So for us, having the ability to hit $10,000 saved in a high interest savings account really was a nice goal to hit as well.
One of the other money goals that we've both hit that I think I find the most exciting, or maybe I'm just the most proud of, is consistently investing 50% of our income. Now, when I think back to the very beginning of my money journey in my 20s specifically, so I guess my adult money journey, if you want to call it that, I have this very distinct memory of this one night. Dennis and I were in this living room right here because we've lived in this apartment for the last 7 years now. And I was trying to decide if I should order a pizza for dinner or not. I guess I had the idea that I wanted to, and then we were going to, and then I was overthinking it. And I wasn't sure if I could afford to order the pizza or not, if I had that money to do that, or if it was just stupid to not buy the pizza because it's such a cheap item, because I was worried if I could afford it or not. Basically, I was just having all this guilt and I could not decide if it made sense for me to order a pizza or not. And I feel like this is like notable because it's a pizza. And at the time, we weren't even buying like the more expensive Toronto pizzas. It definitely would have been something cheap on top of that. So anyway, this is very memorable for me because it's the very moment where I was going through this whole spiral, probably being very funny about it. I was talking through all my decisions and thoughts. And Dennis said to me, and I have this very specific memory of it, why don't you just create a budget? Then you would know if you could afford the pizza or not. And that basically started, and you guys know this too from watching our videos, how big of a deal budgeting has been in both of our lives ever since then. And for me specifically, it's really the starting point of me growing my confidence and ability to handle money on my own. Now, the reason I tell this story and say all of this is because yes, budgeting has been a big part of my money journey, of course, since then. But on top of that, it's also what triggered me to start setting different financial goals. And one of the first ever money goals I hit for myself, specifically at this point in the beginning of my 20s, is to get to the point where I was saving 50% of my income. Now, at the time, I was working a corporate job, so it involved me saving up that percentage from my salary, and I worked my way up to it pretty quickly. I didn't start right at 50%, but I worked my way up to that amount, and I think beyond that, at least to 60% of my monthly income too, that I was either saving or investing. And then when Dennis and I quit our jobs to work for ourselves almost 4 years ago now, which is really crazy. But when that happened, we actually had to take a bit of a salary cut at the beginning when we were figuring everything out. So I had to go down from this point where I was saving and investing over 50% of my income every month to going down to basically no savings for a specific period of time. Then we built that back up. We started with paying ourselves out. I think it was around $2,000 a month. We brought it up to around $3,000 a month. Now we're at almost $4,500 a month. And over time, we've increased the percentage we're able to invest per month on that note too. And I will say that we've gotten back to the point where we're hitting that 50% plus mark again, at least on an annual basis now. So that whole journey of ups and downs has been really, really exciting. Now, by doing this, and specifically by investing that 50% of our income, not just saving it, it's also helped us hit another really big money goal, which is maxing out our tax-advantaged investment accounts. So for me, I maxed out my TFSA for the very first time at the very end of 2023. That was exciting because it's the first registered investment account either of us had ever maxed out before, so big moment. Then in 2024, remaxed out my TFSA and FHSA, or maxed out my FHSA for the very first time, so my first home savings account. 2025 was able to remax them out again, both the TFSA and FHSA. And I just maxed out my RSP for the very first time on June 1st, so just a few weeks ago now. That was also really exciting too. So I'm officially done for this year until I get more contribution room in those different registered investment accounts. Now on Dennis's end, he's also at the point in his investing journey where he's maxed out his TFSA and his FHSA. So up until this point in 2025, they're fully maxed out. And right now he's working on maxing out his RRSP next. So he's currently investing monthly into his RRSP and is working on maxing that one out. I will say on his end, considering that he started off with having to pay off $50,000 worth of student loan debt, he's doing an amazing job at already checking these different accounts off the list on top of that. And we're excited for him to max out his RRSP. We're hoping it'll be during his 30th year too. Now, the last money goal that we've both already hit before turning age 30, that was really, really exciting, was hitting an $100,000 net worth each. So we've both hit in our personal accounts an $100,000 net worth. Now, I feel like this amount or this goal is one of those milestones that's on most people's list of money goals that they want to hit at some point. It feels like this really big, almost unreachable number. So when you're first starting out and you're starting at zero or somewhere in the negatives, the idea of having this $100,000 net worth is such a big deal and such a big moment in your mind. It's also funny that for some reason it's always $100,000, right? Whether it's hoping to make $100,000, save or invest it, for some reason that's that like golden number. Now for me, hitting the $100,000 net worth for the first time, I think it's the main money milestone, I'd call it. So an actual tangible amount, a more quantitative goal that I hit that made me feel really excited and proud and really reflect back on my 20s so far up until that point. So for me, it was just over a year ago now, early 2024. So maybe a year and a half that I hit $100,000 for the first time across any and all of my accounts. And yeah, I think especially knowing that it's a goal I set for myself early on to save and invest as much money as I could. And then I was doing a great job at that, had to switch gears, I guess, or mindsets into the building the business phase for a bit. And then I was able to get back to this personal goal. I just felt very accomplished with that too. I'm very proud of myself. So yeah, I guess a point where I became really reflective and was really happy to hit that amount. Not really for the dollar amount, more so for what it represented, the habits I'd put in place in order to hit that, and what it's going to mean for future me to not just have that money saved, but to have it invested and growing over time. Now for Dennis, he also hit the $100,000 mark too, also in 2024 towards the end of the year. So that was a really, really exciting time for him to hit that as well. And yeah, I guess from now on, we're just gonna be continuing to grow it. It's also interesting for us because we have the exact same goals, for the most part, invest the same amount of money, slightly different timelines based on the fact that Dennis started off with that student loan debt too. So every time he hits these goals, it's really exciting for me to watch as well, knowing how much that he's put into savings overall. Some of it just he didn't get to keep from the student loan debt side of things. But anyways, I think that's it for the notable money goals that we've hit so far before we turn 30.
Okay, so now let's talk about the goals that we still want to hit within the next year or so, either before turning 30 or I guess during my 30th year in my situation. The first one is kind of a natural progression on the last goal that we hit, and that's us hitting a $200,000 net worth each. I feel like it's natural to have markers at each $100,000 increment, and in Steph's case, she's actually really close to hitting her $200,000 net worth. She's currently sitting at $193,000, so literally within the next few months, in her case, she'll be at that goal. On my end, I'm currently sitting at a $145,000 net worth, so we'll see if I hit that $200,000 before the end of my 30th year, but it is possible between what we normally invest and also what our year-end bonus is, depending on how the year or depending on how things are going in general. But also, we'll also see where my investments are in terms of value towards the end of that 30th year. So it is the goal, but we'll see what happens. I also want to mention that when we talk about hitting certain net worth milestones at very specific ages, it really is personal to us. Our goal in the most simplest way or in the most simplest form is to invest as much as we can while we're young in order to take advantage of compound interest as early as we can. Then we track how much we've saved and invested, and that's led us to these amounts at these ages. We're not saying by any means, and you don't have to have a $100,000 or $200,000 net worth before the age of 30. It's all about getting started and investing as much as you can afford to and being consistent over time. Think more about the habits and less about the specific timeframes or the specific numbers. Now, the next money goal that we'd love to hit within the next year or so is being in a position to buy an investment property. To me, this is something that me and Steph have wanted to do for a really long time, and it's something that we actually talked about since the early days of our relationship, and is, to me at least, it's a big part of our money journey together. And we actually did a video last year where we talked about us getting into the process of buying real estate. We ultimately put a pause on it, but it is something that we want to revisit ideally in the near future. Now, I do want to mention that we put a pause on the process for a few different reasons, but the main reason was because it would have taken up a big chunk of money that we did have, but we made the decision to put that money or direct that money towards the stock market and continue in the goal that I was talking about earlier of investing as much as possible and as early as possible in order to take advantage of that compound interest. So really, when we say that we want to be in a position to buy an investment property, what we really mean by that is we ideally want to have additional money that's on top of the money that we have already invested for future us that's in the stock market that we could use to purchase an investment property. We'll definitely share more in future videos on what that actually looks like for us and what our plans are moving forward. But I do want to, specifically say that this is something that is a goal for us and is definitely on our radar.
Okay, so now there's one more money goal that we still have on our list, and it's not really one that you can actually check off because it's continuing to grow our money knowledge. Now, this one is personally really, really important to me because if I look back and reflect on my 20s, one of the main themes that really sticks out to me is how much time I spent learning and growing my money knowledge and then my confidence hand in hand. To me, actually being able to be more informed and educated on a topic not only proves to you that you're capable of learning that information and doing it, but like I just said, it grows your confidence hand in hand. You need that knowledge and information and being able to feel informed on a topic to feel empowered to grow your confidence and then actually take action. So I know for me, all of these different milestones and goals that we just said and covered that we've already hit, I was only able to do that and have that success because I grew my money knowledge and then I took action because I was more confident and then I hit those markers over time. So for me to continue to see success in the world of money and personal finance throughout the rest of my life and the next decades that I'm gonna hit, I know I need to continue to grow my money knowledge too. The other thing that I think is important to say too is that you don't really reach this point where you know everything. There's always more for you to learn, more topics to go into, more detail to go into it. And when it comes to myself and Dennis specifically as well, our goal isn't just to know it for ourselves, right? It's knowing topics and knowing these details about all things money so well that we're able to then share that information back with you all in a more simple, easy to understand way, because we've done that work of digesting the information, I guess you could call it. So that's really important for us and a goal that we're going to continue to have. Now, when it comes to what we want to do, when it comes to growing our money knowledge over the next year or so, we specifically are interested at this point in our lives and time in our lives, I guess, in learning more about retirement planning, specifically from an investment perspective. I feel like we know the high level when it comes to this topic, but we really want to go into the weeds and know more about the details. So how do you actually go about adjusting? When should you and how should you adjust your investments in detail when you're approaching retirement? What exactly does that look like? The most optimal and optimized and efficient way to use your different investment accounts, all the different scenarios that go involved in it. We really want to go deep on that topic and understand more about it for a few reasons. Again, in general, it's early for us to think about retirement planning, but we want to be able to share that information back with you all. So you'll definitely see more videos on this topic of retirement from an investing perspective on our channel over the next year or so. But also on a personal end, it's also nice to have that information now at a starting point that we can learn more over time and kind of work backwards and help ourselves too.
And those are all the money goals that we've hit and still want to hit before we're 30 years old. I know Steph mentioned this at the beginning, but it really is crazy to think that both of us this time next year will both be in our 30s. And to me, that it just shows how quickly time and life just flies by. And no matter how old you are, let us know in the comments the money goals that you're currently working on, and we'll see you next week with another video.